D, wait for it, delightful.
Check out the name tag. You're in my world now, Grandma.
What's up, nerds? So, watched the premiere for season 3 of Superman and Lois, and I'll tell you right now, I love this show. I'm so happy that it's back. I really hope people watch it this season. Last season it didn't do the best in terms of viewers, but I think that's just because, the pandemic with COVID and everything, and them shooting, and they kept stopping and starting. Like they'd have a group of episodes, and then they have like 2 episodes, and they go back on break and everything. And I think it was just really, even at times I was confused, and I pay attention to this stuff. And even I was confused at some points in time, because I was like, oh my gosh, I thought it was back, and it wasn't back. And I'm all like, you can't expect people to come back if you guys don't keep a regular schedule. So I think this season they will keep a regular schedule. And I'm happy. I hope they do, because I really want this show to succeed. And I'm pretty sure we're going to get a season 4, because James Gunn has said that this show is going to stick around because people like it. And I'm like, good, because I do like this show. Now, this episode wasn't the best episode, but it was a good episode. It was a good start to season 3. I really enjoyed it. It had this show, I think, does a good balance of the emotional moments, and then good dialogue, and then also action sequences. Now, granted, it's TV made action sequences, but I still thought that it was pretty good. So also there was some new casting. I can't remember the actor that's been cast, but Jordan Elias used to be Jonathan on the show, and he was recast. There's some stuff going on. I'm not quite sure it was because of the coof and the jab, or if it was because of mental health. I think they maybe went with the mental health issue thing, because they didn't want anybody to get upset with them about the show. But I'm quite confused about that whole thing. But I really like Jordan Elias as Jonathan Kent. I thought he did a great job. So we'll see how this kid is. I mean, this episode, he really didn't have any big lines to really show off and everything. So I can't really judge his acting from this episode. All right, let's bust into this episode. It won't take me too long, I don't think, to get through this breakdown and everything. I always say that, and then it takes me 20 minutes. But I'm going to try to get through this, because I don't really remember all the lines that were said. But it was a very good episode. I personally was touched. I'll tell you why when we get to it. But before I get started on this breakdown, I just want to say that if you like what I do here and you enjoy independent content here on YouTube, please consider subscribing to my channel. YouTube is always changing up their algorithm, and small channels like mine, we just keep getting shoved to the back of the line. So please ask that you like, share, and subscribe, and I thank you in advance. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get started on this breakdown. So it starts off with Lois, and she's talking about how it's 27 days since season 2. And they're in the Fortress of Solitude, and the whole family, because he built the Fortress of Solitude for all of them. And they're in there, and he puts the little crystal in, and his mom pops out, which I have to say, I'm kind of bummed that Jor-El is not in the Fortress of Solitude, and it's his mother. It's kind of like how they did with the Superman movies. I think it was just because Marlon Brando didn't want to come back and do the second one or whatnot, so they had to use the mom or something like that. Which is fine. This is fine too, but I was like, whatever. So then, so there, he introduces him to the new son, and we all get introduced to the new son, because they're like, hey, you kind of look like that other kid, but not really. Anyways. And she talks about moving forward, and, here we have, Lana, too many L names in this show. And she's talking about building a city hall, and she's, the mayor now and everything. And, Daddy, gosh, I'm getting their names all confused. Chris, maybe that's the actress. Anyways, he's picking out some stuff. They give him this to paint his walls. John Henry is painting with his daughter and everything. And then Daddy Lane, they're closing down the mines for good. So that seals up the Bizarro world, which I'm kind of like, I'm not mad about it, but I'm kind of bummed, because I did like seeing Bizarro world. I wish they wouldn't have killed off Bizarro in general, but whatever, it's fine. Everything's fine. And they could always bring him back, because his body's still here. So maybe they could bring him back and he's just fully gone. He's just fully Zorgified and everything. So Clark is working at the Gazette and he's looking over there at Lois as she's finishing up her paper, and she's just like looking at him like he's a big strong glass of water, and she's thirsty because then he takes her to Pound Town. You know what I'm saying? He's like bad baby. And so this is Tal Rose like villa or whatever, and he's off in Bizarro World. And they're sitting here talking, and the boys like contact him, and they're like, yeah, the boys want to practice before whatever. And she's like, well, they're just gonna have to wait. So then Jordan is flying and he's racing. He's like, come on, catch up. Oh, you can't keep up with me, old man. And then he blasts him and he like falls into the water, and he gets there first. And he's all like, I'm gonna have to bring a wetsuit because every time I come here, I end up getting wet. And then he's like, I want you to spar. And he's like, and then fly directly home. He's like, by myself. And he's like, yes, fly directly home. So he spars with what looks like Metallo, or at least I think it looks like Metallo. You can tell me. Sorry, I didn't get a better screen grab than this, but Metallo. And then Jonathan is learning how to drive. His mom's teaching him how to drive. And she is very like nitpicky. Let me just tell you right now. I plan on driving with my kids. I will not be doing it like my mother, who is very much like one of those yell at you drivers. I'm going to try to be more sympathetic. Like, hey, this is hard, but we're going to do this. And yeah. And then Daddy Lane is with John Henry Irons. He's like, now you're working with me. You can just come into the DOD. And he's like, nah, I'm going to have to bring the little one. And he's like, I'll get her clearance. She can come with you. And he's like, I like it here. And I'm all like, yeah, I think that's just so you guys can save money, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. And then he talks to what's her face. And he's like, hey, what did we do on your world since I was your grandfather? And she's like, every Friday night we'd have horror movie night. And he's like, hey, you want to go see that movie? And it's like, chainsaw slasher, whatever movie, number 3. And she's like, yeah, let's go do that and everything. And they think John Henry and his daughter both think that he's trying to connect with her, as like family. And he kind of is, but he also has ulterior motives, which we'll find out later on. Which I didn't think the ulterior motives were bad. It's just maybe he should have held off on the into ulterior motives and just been like, yeah. So then here we go. We have Chris, not Pine. But he sees Lana and he's like, hey, you haven't signed the papers yet. And she's like, I'm really sorry. It's just every time I go to sign the papers, something happens. And sorry, this is Kyle, not Chris. Sorry. And she's like, and then this woman comes up. She's like, Mayor, we have a situation at the school. And she's like, see, stuff like this. She's like, but I'll get them to you when I can. And so I think a small piece of him thinks that maybe she doesn't want to sign the divorce papers. Like she wants to try to work it out. But she does not. So then at the Gazette, Chrissy is talking to Clark and she's like, hey, can you go find out what's happening at the school? But he hears this crane in Malaysia, the Prime Minister of Malaysia. And he zooms away. He's like, yeah, I'll get there. She's like, because you have to go say something. And while he's flying there, he gets there and Jordan's there. And Jordan I think what Jordan was trying to do was he was trying to heat up the metal to maybe like how when you iron something together, like you solder something together. I think that's what he was trying to do. But I'm all like, that's not how you can't just, you gotta have another piece of metal kind of thing. And he makes it worse and the crane falls, like the pieces of the crane fall. And it goes along the building. I'm like, oh, Jordan, you just ruined that building. Now they have to like do that whole part over again. And Clark grabs this part, and then another one's like falling, and he's like, and everything. And he stops. I was like, oh, that's so good. I was like, I love this show. I was like, the writers of this show get it. So, and then he's yelling at him, which I'm all like, listen, because he's like, I told you to fly straight home, which I understand that, but I'm like, come on, man. He just wants to get into the family business, just calm it down. Although Clark is right. He could have got people hurt that were around that building. So he should have been more careful. Plus, he doesn't know what he's doing. So he just can't jump into the fold and be like, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm like, you don't know what you're doing, kiddo. So maybe you should take a step back and then, reassess the situation. Back at the school, they have mold all up in the walls, which I'm going to just tell you right now. I had a situation here in this house right here where there was a possibility of mold, but we caught it like right away. Like we like almost like that, because I spotted something and I was like, we need to check this out. And then we need to nip it in the bud if it is mold. Because that can cost so much money if you, and this is the problem in this episode, is that the fact that it's going to cost so much money. And later on, she has to find somewhere in the budget money to redo to get rid of all this mold. And so he's like, yeah, you have a huge mold problem. And she's like, how are you and Lois? And he's like, and she's like, oh, that good, huh? And everything. So Lois is at the hospital, or she's at a doctor's office. And don't worry, we'll find out some other stuff too, but she's not there for anything medical. But she was feeling like nauseous and stuff like that. But this woman coming in, this is John Henry Irons' sister, but from this world. Now, this is world TDK 123. I don't remember what the numbers are. And she's like, I told you no. And she's like, I just want to ask you about your your brother's murder. She's like, did it have anything to do with Mannheim? Something Mannheim. What was his name? It was something Mannheim, like Godric Mannheim, the leader of Intergang. Bruno Mannheim. There we go. And so she's all like, I shouldn't even be talking to you. She's like, but my brother, he started selling after he got back from somewhere, I can't remember, Middle East. He started selling government tech to Bruno Mannheim, the leader of Intergang, which I don't think they did a good job with Intergang in this episode, but we'll see, because it was done very cheaply, which I'm all like, I don't know. And then also to Lex Luthor. They mentioned Lex Luthor, which I'm like, yeah, and Lex Luthor will be in this season. I don't know about the actor they picked, but we'll see. I'm giving him a shot. And she's like, I don't recognize my brother that came back. And I'm curious to see if they introduced John Henry from the alternate from Earth 2 to this woman. So back at the diner, Sarah and Jordan are having dinner or whatever, or sodas or whatever. And he's like, I brought you back this little mini elephant from Malaysia. And she's all like, listen, I'm still not interested, dude. I just still can't have an interest. And she's like, you don't need a reason to buy your friend a gift. You don't have to fly all the way to Malaysia as a reason to buy a gift for your friend. And she's like, oh, I got to go pick up my sister. And he's bummed, but I just want to tell you right now, he is simping hard and he needs to stop. Like, I'm sorry. Like, dude, I understand that you're like crushing hard on Sarah, but like, you gotta move on, because she is. And if stuff goes forward in the future, then that's good. But you can't be like sitting here simping for her. It makes you look bad, and it's just pathetic. It's just pathetic. So these two are in the line, and he's never seen any of these movies that they're talking about. But then he mentions this program for the DOD that this academy that he wants to get her involved. And that's the reason he asked her out to the movie. And so she's really bummed, because she thought he wanted to get a relationship with her. Not like that, not like a weird relationship, like a grandfather granddaughter relationship, which I'm pretty I think he says it later that he does, but he this was the reason why he asked her to go. So these two are talking about the children, and he's talking about they don't listen. I was like, ain't that the truth? Children never listen. And then she's like, I might be pregnant. And he's like, what? And so he's like, how are you, kind of thing. And and they're like, this is so different, because they're old. And I just want to say, like, this hit home for me. I don't know about you guys, but this hit home for me because I'm gonna be 40 this year. Oh, so old. And I want to have another baby. But it would be so different because we're so old and it would be hard and all that stuff. But I just do. I want another baby. So then back here, what's her face comes in. I keep calling her what's her face. I know her name. It just has to pop in. Like it's you guys, you give me just 2 seconds and her name will magically appear. Nat, like the bug, Natalie. Nat. She comes in and she's all like, he wanted me to join some program. He's all like, huh, and everything. So he's pissed now. Back at the farm, he comes home and he's like, studying, huh? And he's like, yeah, he's like, you know, you may not want to drive anymore because, you know, you don't, you know, you can fly, but driving is important to me, and getting this my driver's license is really important. So I'm like, good for you. It is important. Yeah. And so I can't remember what they talk about, but he goes to get some birthday gifts or whatnot, because the AI told him that the birthday gifts he get aren't going to arrive in time. He sees Clark getting a pregnancy test, and they have a little chit chat about it. Nothing crazy. These two are sitting here, and she's talking about being a mayor, and she's all like, I have to find this money from the budget somewhere. And she's like, you will do it. You worked in the bank. This is what you know. This is what you're good at. You will get this done, girl. You know how to do this. And so she's like, you want another Manhattan? I'm like, yeah, she does. Manhattans are delicious. You got to get extra cherries though. Even though maraschino cherries are so bad for you because like the red 5 dye or whatever, they're so bad for you, but they're so delicious. And she's like, I'll just stick with the water. She's like, water? And she's like, and she's like, oh, Lois. And she's like, yeah. And she's like, but it's gonna be so different. And she's like, and then she's like, yeah, but you remember when they're all little? And like the crap like this hit hard, like hard for me, because I was like, yeah, you remember when they're little and they're babies and you're just so cute and you just want to squeeze their cheeks off and everything. And they're like, and she's like, when they laugh and they say your name for the first time, I'm like, oh, aren't those like the best? If you have kids, you understand. If you don't have kids, listen, have kids. I promise you, you will be better for it. And the world will be better for it also, because children keep the world spinning. I promise you, it's the best experience ever. All right. So she's like, but she talks about how it'd be so different because they have 2 16-year-olds and starting over with a kid, it'd be different. And she's like, yeah, but you know, you can make, and then she asks Lana, she's like, if you could have a baby right now, would you? And she's like, yeah. And I'm all like, yeah. I'm like, you know, I don't know, man. I mean, it's an experience that I think that I think everyone benefits from having babies if you can and if you want to. I get some people can't, and I'm sorry about that. So back at the DMV, he's nervous, but she's like, you got this. And then the coach shows up to be his instructor, and he's all like, he's like, you know, Coach Ty or whatever. And he's like, yeah, I had to get a second job. Why would I need a second job? And you're going to ruin this test like you ruined my football team. And I'm like, okay, back off, mister. He didn't do it. It was his girlfriend. He just took the fall for her, which I'm like bummed about because I was like, man. So then he's all like, yeah, he took off points. He's like, hey, man, I'm sorry, but I still passed. So he's super happy. And she's like, yeah, he was really happy. And then I think here is where she tells him that she wants another baby. But I can't remember off the top of my head. And so he goes to get the cake. They've got the party. By the way, I didn't get a screenshot of it. The cake was not that great. I'm all like, you could pick that up from any general store. It just said happy 16th birthday, Jordan and Jonathan. I was like, I could have made a better cake than that. And John comes in. He's like, hey, John. And John comes in. He's all like, you did this. He's like, hey, I'm sorry, man. He's like, she wanted a relationship with her grandfather, and you took advantage of that. He's like, I'm sorry. Then Chrissy brings him, she gets him an alarm clock for his birthday gift, which I'm all like, you know, not a great gift, but whatever. It's nice, the thought. And then these two are talking about barbecue because he's like, your barbecue is not that great. So him and Chrissy are chit-chatting, and he gives her the, hey, I'm going to take you to Pound Town eyes. These two are chit-chatting about his car. The coach is there, which I'm like, why would you go? I thought you didn't like this kid. You know, everybody's having a good time. They watch a video of them and them growing up and everything. It's super cute. And they're just like looking at each other and everything. I like this actress right here. She's got a great look. And then he hears some stuff going down. Look at how cute they are. That's a cute family. So anyways, he hears some, screaming in Metropolis, right? I think this is Metropolis, although it looks like Chicago because that looks like the Hancock Tower. So then he's flying in there, and this is Henry Williams. I don't know this bad guy's name besides that. Henry Williams? Shoot. It's something Williams. Hank Williams. Anyways, okay. So he's like, you should be in jail and you have superpowers. So they start fighting. That's a great shot. That's a good shot too. I'm going to use that as my thumbnail. And so they start fighting. He's like, we're not fighting here around all these people. So he starts going through and smashing them through. And I'm like, yes, this is what we want. We want these action sequences in our shows. And this show does a good balance because they even it out because it costs money to do all these scenes. And I think they do a good balance of it. So then he's all like, I have to get this done before they come. This is a great shot. It's got the lens flare, but they really use it good here. Like, that's a really beautiful shot right there. Anyways, so he's all like, I'm blocking it. And so he's all like, what do you mean? And so they start fighting again. And so Sarah and Jordan are talking, and I can't remember what they're talking about exactly, but she's basically like, hey man, you need to calm it down. Like, cause you're simping hard. And this is not like, I am dry from your simping. And so he hears his dad fighting. She's like, you hear him fight? And he's like, yep. And she's like, you gonna leave? And he's like, nope. Because he's like, I'm not gonna get involved because my dad told me not to get involved. And so they're fighting here, and he's all like, all of a sudden he's like bullets are going through him, but there's no bullets. So I think maybe it's sound, like it's from internal, but it's sound, but I'm not quite sure. And so he falls over and he looks and he's like, there's no bullets. And there's this guy. Now, this is onomatopoeia. I think. I haven't looked it up, but I'm like 99% sure this is onomatopoeia because his face, it looks like onomatopoeia. They did it differently. I didn't think it would look like this in real life because this flower part right here, it's all vibrating. And when I read the comic books, I didn't get that. So onomatopoeia, what he does is like, he makes sound. He's very much kind of like Deadpool, like he's very jokey, but he makes sound. Like, okay, you remember if you ever watched Police Academy, you had not Hightower, the guy that made all the noise, like boop, beep, boop, boop, and everything. Like if he was like pretending to be a robot, he'd be like, but he did it like way better. He actually sounded like a robot. That's what onomatopoeia does. He like makes these sounds, like it mimics them, but like if he was going to be like punch you in the face, he'd make a punching noise like before he hit you. He's a pretty good character. He's very like fighty like Deadpool. He's very much like Deadpool. But I feel like they're using him differently in this show, and his weird face flower here freaks me out. And when it moves, I'm like, oh, it makes me itch. So then he hears people screaming. So he flies off and everything, but he can't focus on where it is. And I'm like, okay, this is how they're going to use onomatopoeia, which I'm like, it's fine. Because onomatopoeia, like, I don't know. And so he's like, there's no sound here. So he lands back and the body's gone. Everybody's gone. And he sees suicide slums, which I was like, ooh, that's from the comics. So back at the party, the old mayor comes in because she keeps mentioning, she's like, I don't know what he was doing with this budget, but she found the money somewhere and it was like hidden away kind of thing. And he's like, you need to put that money back. And she's like, I don't think so. You did a bad job. And he's like, listen to me. He's like, you don't know what you're messing. You don't know what you're messing with, woman. And then John Henry's like, I think you need to leave. And she's like, this isn't over. And I'm all like, oh, get out of here with your nonsense. Daddy Lane apologizes. He's like, listen, I really would like to connect with you on a family relationship level. And I'm sorry. I just thought maybe you wanted to be in that program so I could spend more time with you. I think he said, I don't know. These two get a Hawaiian shirt from their grandfather, which they're not happy about, but I'm all like, hey, it's not that bad. Calm it down. And then they bring up their births, which they go away. And then this is where they decide that they want to have another baby. And they're really excited about it and everything. And and you guys, this whole time, every time they start talking about babies, I'm like, the girl in me comes out and I'm like, I want another baby. It's very hard though when you're older to have another child. Okay, so then he's in there and Chrissy wakes up next to him. I'm like, I knew you were gonna take her to Pound Town, buddy. Good job. So he's like, hey, and she's like, listen, this is like a one-time thing. This can't happen again, which means it's gonna happen again, you guys. That's what that always means. Because he dicked her down good. You know what I'm saying? Like, she's gonna come back for more. Like, he gave her that good D. And everybody, he's handing out the good D to everybody. So then Lana shows up and she signs the divorce paper. And, they're just like, we had a good run. And then she goes and he's like, and I'm pretty sure he gave her that good D one more time. So back at the Gazette, they're sitting here chit-chatting and stuff. Chrissy comes in and she gets a call from the doctor, from Dr. Irons. And she's like, you're not pregnant. And I was like, oh, ruin their whole day. But she's all like, but I still want to do some more tests because I don't like these symptoms. And I was like, what's going on because of these symptoms? And I think he can hear, so he's like bummed too. So then back at Metropolis, because she's like, I want you to come back to Metropolis, our center, and check some stuff out. So back at Metropolis, we go down to the sewers. And this is the thing about Intergang. Intergang is not all like dingy and dark and like cheap like this is. They are like, they have, money, and they have space, interstellar technology. So they are able, and that's their whole thing. They're a gang, but they have, alien weaponry. So I'm all like, maybe we need to, maybe have Intergang not so looking so, cheap, guys. But as far as this end scene goes, it's fine. So this guy's all like, Mr. Mannheim, we can't add. He's dead. And he's like, we'll add some more of the injection. He's like, we can't add more because he's dead. He's like, what did I say? And he's like, as you wish, and everything. And they put the stuff in him and he comes back to life. And Onomatopoeia comes in. He's like, don't look at me like that. And he's like, see, I told you. He's like, we're getting closer. And then that's where the episode ends. And like I said before, and I'll hold to it, I think that this show does a really good job of balancing out the emotional parts, the action sequences, and the story really, really well. I really do think that they do. And kudos to the writers and the showrunners and all that stuff, and the actors and everything, because I think that this is a well-oiled machine, and I personally enjoy it. And all the baby stuff, like I'm all about it. Like I don't know. All right, you guys, I'm sorry I kept you so long with my nonsense, but tell me, what did you guys think about this episode? Did you like it? Did you not like it? What was your favorite part? Are you looking forward to next week's episode? How do you feel about season 2? How do you feel about this new actor? I feel like he did an okay job, but we really didn't get enough of him in this episode to really like judge his performance. But I do miss Jordan Elias. He did a really good job. And I mean, and if they didn't let him back because of, Canada's stupid, jab rules, then, screw them. All right, you guys, tell me what you guys think about this. Go ahead and leave all your comments in that section down below. If you like this video, go and hit that like button. I won't mind. If you're on my channel, please hit that subscribe button. I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will see you guys on my next week on my Superman and Lois breakdown review. You guys have a good week. Bye.